Well, that was quite the game there. Hello, everybody. The Canadians lose 7-5 against the San Jose Sharks in San Jose in what was just an absolute roller coaster. And what you can expect nothing less from the Canadians from how they played this season as to how this game was going to go. I mean, the two very highly skilled offensive teams there. Obviously, both teams very much up and coming. I think the Habs a little bit better in terms of further along in their in terms of being in a playoff position, but both these teams very much up and coming. They're going to be bumping heads against each other in their two meetings a year for years to come, in my opinion. Obviously, we have another game coming up against them next week in the Bell Center, so I think this game definitely set the stage for for what will be a very interesting game a week from now ish. Like on next Saturday or whatever. That should be a great game, but yeah, this was very much ups and downs. That third period for the Canadians was very nice. I feel like we did a lot of stuff to stuff well to find ourselves back in a position to nearly get a point in this one. Obviously, we don't get a point in this one, and I don't believe that we deserve to get a point in this one. But I definitely got to give credit to pretty much everybody but the top line today is kind of how I feel. I feel like our top line, Caulfield, Suzuki, Kirby Dach did absolutely nothing today, and that's just it's a big deal in my opinion. I feel like obviously you can't expect more than 5 goals a game, so I'm not going to fault them for not scoring, but I feel like defensively, everybody, but especially them, did not play well at all. Our defense in general just was not great today. I felt like Dobesh had an off night as well, and especially against a very high octane offensive team like what the Sharks are there, that's going to cost you for sure. So. Yeah, just moments in this game that looked good, and then moments in this game that were just absolutely embarrassing and just not indicative of a team that's going to be contending for a cup this year. And honestly, and I think in a lot of ways, I feel like this is a sign that this team needs a shakeup a little bit if we want to be competitive down the stretch here. Because playing games like that, especially against a team who's not currently in a playoff position, still very young, kind of in our wheelhouse there, to go and have a second period like we did in this one is just not acceptable. And I feel like especially in terms of our defending all the way across the board, goaltending, defense, offense, just not enough tonight in terms of our ability to protect our goaltender, keep pucks out of the net, all that kind of stuff. So I'll run through it here. Obviously, Oliver Kapanen opened the goal scoring with his 19th of the season. Slavkovsky and Matheson getting the assist there. Slavkovsky, his 26th assist of the season there, and then Matheson gets his 24th assist of the season there. Kind of a lucky play from Kapanen. He takes a shot and deflects off of the defenseman's stick and up into kind of the opposite corner that he was really aiming at. Fooled the goaltender there, and we get off to a 1-0 lead. Colin Graff gets a nice goal there, and this is just what I'm kind of talking about with our top line not getting the defense that we need there. If you go back and watch that Colin Graff goal to tie the game in the first period, you can see that Caulfield, Suzuki, Dach, and even Caden Gooley are all out there, and all four of them just go out and reach for the puck, and they're trying to spring offense. And like Caulfield goes right in and misses the puck on a reach, and then Suzuki goes in and reaches for it. Dach goes in and kind of falls down reaching for it, and then Gooley, instead of backing up playing defense, he tries to poke at it, reaches for it again. All four of them swing and miss, and all of a sudden it's a 2-on-1, and Colin Graff just has to tap that one home. I don't like that. I feel like it's very much a peewee thing to do, in my opinion, to go and reaching for pucks, trying to like spring yourself on a breakaway. Obviously, that move from Caulfield is exactly what he did in our last game. That's how he got himself a breakaway goal early in the first period. So I understand what the thought process is, but one guy can maybe do that and try to make it work, and it could have worked. But then Suzuki goes, and then Dach goes, and then Gooley goes. There's no awareness there. Like, we got to find a way to, somebody's got to play defense and stay in the zone, cover their guy, and everybody's trying to reach and play offense and make that play work, and nobody gets it to work, obviously, because they're all just reaching. Nobody's using body contact or anything like that. We're all just reaching for the puck. And it goes in the back of our net. I think that's just poor defensive effort there from the leaders of this team. Suzuki and Caulfield. I think those guys need to be better in that position. Need to be better defensively there, and that's not what we get. Phil Deneau in the second period gets a nice tip. Matheson with a good shot there, and then Phil Deneau kind of with a high tip puts that down and in. A nice effort there. I felt like, especially our bottom six entirely, but that Deneau line with Boljuk and Anderson. I felt like those guys had a great game today. Anderson getting a little bit feisty in there, but he was definitely, I feel like Anderson, more than most guys on the team throughout most of this game, put in a great effort. He had the wheels. He was putting the physicality into his game, and that's something that we come to expect from Anderson in general. But I feel like he's probably the only guy who was laying hits for the first 40 minutes of this game. He was the only one trying to be physical, especially against a team who doesn't really have a whole lot of physical guys in San Jose. I mean, they're a young team too. They got that talent. They're basically the same team that we are. We should be able to take the physicality to them a little bit. And I felt like a lot of guys were, trying to do those reaches and pokes and all that kind of stuff, and it just doesn't go the way we need to go. But yeah, I felt like that line was great. I felt like, the Slavkovsky line played a little bit better. Obviously, getting some goals as well, some points. But you'll look through the score sheet here, and pretty much nobody, like Suzuki gets one assist here later into the third period, but that entire top line just non-existent in this one. I feel like it's just a disappointing effort there, both offensively and defensively. But anyway, Michael Misa scores to tie the game back up. Kind of an unfortunate play. It's just like the puck gets into the front of the net area, and there's three guys in that area. None of them can kind of clear the puck away. Dobesh goes in for a poke check, trying to do it himself, and instead of poking it away, he pokes it right over to Misa, who just puts it right up and over his shoulder. Not a great decision there from Dobesh. I kind of understand what he's thinking. Like, he's just trying to get that puck out of the area, and none of our defenders seem to be able to do so, which is problem number one. We have three defenders in that area, which should be able to assert their dominance physically in front of the net and get that puck out of there, but doesn't happen and ends up in the back of our net instead. So it just disappointing there. And then not too long after that, a couple minutes later, Macklin Celebrini, there's a puck battle in the wall in the neutral zone, and then Celebrini kind of pulls that out and just springs into life offensively there, and catches the entirety of the Canadians flat-footed, and just catches Dobesh. That's one that you go back and watch that one. That's definitely one that Dobesh wants to have back. It literally just squeaks through his 5-hole with literally no screen, no tip, no nothing like that. It just goes straight through the 5-hole. Kind of reminded me a little bit of that Brendan Gallagher goal in the 2021 playoffs there, Game 7 against Toronto. If anybody's familiar there, he just kind of shot it and went through the 5-hole. Like that's just one that you need to save. You would say that about Jack Campbell then. You would say that about Dobesh now, and I feel like that's definitely one that Dobesh is going to want back there. And even worse, pretty much 20 seconds later, whatever, Wenberg scores. Kiefer Sherwood had a great effort there, but Doc was just embarrassing defensively here. We just got scored on, and Doc is just kind of like going for a Sunday stroll in our defensive zone where the puck doesn't even feel any contact on him. Nobody's chasing him. All of a sudden, he's got a guy all over him. He coughs up the puck, gets put into the front of the net. Matheson can't do anything. Dobesh can't do anything, and it's in the back of our net again. And then we go into the second intermission, down 2 goals there, 3 unanswered goals there from the Sharks, and it's just this is unacceptable effort there from Doc. I feel like I don't really care who that was, but he's just skating back into our zone like there's nobody, like the play is already dead or something like that. Like, he's not doing anything. He's just kind of skating back and gets swarmed by Kiefer Sherwood there, and it ends up in the back of our net. It's just like, that's just an unacceptable play. It's just it just frustrates me. It's like, I just don't understand how you can be skating back into your own zone and just have so little care for what's going on around you in terms of forecheckers and all that stuff. And I don't know, I feel like Doc has been playing pretty well recently as well, but I feel like that's just one that you're going to want to work on moving forward. You just can't do stuff like that. You got to be aware into your defensive zone. It's just disappointing, and especially when we just gave up a goal too. Like, and it's the very next shot on goal for San Jose also goes into the back of the net. That killed the game for us right there. Is those 3 goals, mistakes by defensemen and forwards and all that kind of stuff. Goaltenders, like, that's what killed the game for us there. We did a really good job in the third period to kind of fight back a little bit. Will Smith scored on the power play to really seemingly put this game away. Obviously, nice pass there by Celebrini, and it finds Will Smith on the back door on a power play that was really unnecessary. It's Josh Anderson trying to shake things up a little bit and play with some emotion there. And obviously we end up with a penalty and the goal gets scored there. But then we get some penalties going our way instead, and we get some power play goals. Ivan Demidov absolutely unleashes a one-timer. Finally, his stick doesn't break, and he actually goes and scores a goal there. So nice one there from Demidov, which puts it into that top right corner for his 13th of the season. Hudson gets that 50 assist mark, and Suzuki also with 50 assists, both on that same goal there. So gave us a little bit of life there, and then 18 seconds later, Alex Newhook scores. He gets his 7th of the season there. Jake Evans and Caden Gooley get their 8th and 4th assists respectively there, and it's just kind of a broken play, a bad play by the Sharks defenseman behind their own net, and it ends up with Caden Gooley, and he's able to slot that one home. So yeah, and then all of a sudden, we're back in the game, and then Alex Newhook scores again. He gets his 8th goal of the season on the power play, very, very end of the power play there. You just kind of like keeping it in the zone, and the shot goes off of Brendan Gallagher. Newhook is able to pick that one up and then puts it off the toe of Askarov, and it bounces back and into the net, and that's a tie game. So his 8th goal of the season, Brendan Gallagher, his 14th assist of the season, and then Matheson picks up another assist there. That's going to be his 26th assist of the season there. So playing well offensively. Obviously, I think offense has never really been a huge issue for this team. We have a lot of talented offensive players, and we're able to pull off stuff like that. Like we were able to pull off we were down 5-2, and then we came back to tie it up 5-5, and had a chance of winning this thing. But unfortunately, we take another penalty. Too many men on the ice there is an unfortunate one. That's one that you can't let slip there. That's a coaching problem as well. You need to be more aware of who's on the ice, who's not on the ice, and that ends up costing us. Kiefer Sherwood scores on that power play there. A nice passing play there from Kurashev that finds Sherwood with pretty much a completely open net there. So an unfortunate play, and that ices the game. Of course, we had some good chances late with the goalie pulled, but couldn't quite get that one to go. And it ends up being a 7-5 loss there with that empty netter from Gaudette. But yeah, like I just think like even if we did come back and win this game, it would be a game that we absolutely stole from the San Jose Sharks. I feel like, especially that second period for the Canadians just is unacceptable in my opinion. I feel like, obviously Jeannot scores that one, but I felt like we played on our heels. We just weren't engaged for the entirety of that third period, and it's just unacceptable. In a situation where, like, I'm going to bring up the standings every single time in these videos, because especially as we get closer to, the end of the season here and into crunch time, like, it's going to become more and more important. But, like, Tampa Bay isn't losing games, right? Like, obviously, they've actually lost their last 3 games in a row, but they're still, number 1 in the Atlantic, so it's not like we're going to catch them anytime soon. But Buffalo's on a 4-game winning streak. 7-2-1 in their last 10. Detroit just won 4-4-2 in their last 10, but they're still ahead of us by 1 point. We just lost one. We're 5-3-2. But Boston, if we look behind us a little bit, Boston, only 2 points behind us right now. Columbus only 5 points behind us right now. Washington only 6 points behind us right now. And like 5 and 6 points feels like a pretty good cushion, but it's only March 4th right now. As of it's just past midnight here, so into Wednesday, March 4th. But it's just like the situation is dire, right? Like, obviously, we're not going to win every single game. We're going to have games where, it doesn't quite go our way. And, obviously, Macklin Celebrini just absolutely had our way with us in this one. And, that'll happen. I mean, he's one of the best players in the NHL. I feel like he's, a guy who should be winning the Hart this year. I feel like he's just definitely should be in that conversation as a, 19 or 20-year-old or something like that. So he's a very impressive player. But, it's just frustrating when, like the Canadians put 5 in, like we should be able to win after scoring 5 goals in a game. We should be able to win against a team who isn't in a playoff spot and is actually, as far back as a playoff spot than as like Washington is in the East right now. Like they're 5 points out or something like that of a playoff spot. So it's a game that we should be winning, in a game that, if we play more sound, like even if you take into the fact that, like Dobish might be responsible for like 2 of those goals or whatever, we still end up winning, 5-2 there. Like it's still a situation where like the Canadians defense, both the actual defenders and our forwards, are just not doing enough to actually play a defensive effort. And you look at games like Buffalo's game today. They played the Vegas Golden Knights here. They won another 1-goal game. They didn't even score an empty netter. They scored 3 goals. Vegas came back and scored 2, but they just held them off for the entirety of that third period, most of the second period as well. That's not something that the Canadians have been able to acquire this year. I feel like a lot of times when it's a 1-goal game, it's a close game, the Canadians can't hold off the opposition. We end up going to overtime, or we lose in regulation like we did today. I think back to way back when in the season when we played the Oilers in Edmonton, and we just couldn't hold on when we had a nice lead there and let things slip away. And I feel like that's something that's been a trend here for the Canadians, is just not being able to to hold it off. And like it's a defensive thing. Like we're great at offense. I think we're one of the best offensive teams in the NHL. We score a lot more goals than a lot of other teams, per game there. But, in terms of our defensive effort, it's just not there right now. And that's something that needs to be, shored up. And honestly, I think that might be a trade deadline thing as well. Like, I don't know what exactly you go for. Like, I think a lot of people have been talking about Robert Thomas. I don't think that's something that the Canadians are going to go for, especially considering what that price tag is. I personally don't really want to see Michael Hage go, considering how well he's been playing over the past 2 years in Michigan. So I would like to keep him around and maybe even see him in the lineup come, April or something like that. I don't know what will happen, but we'll see. But I feel like defensively, we got to find a way to to bolster our lineup in a way that we're not coughing up these 2 goals in 20-second things, and we're able to like shut down games when we've got ourselves in a lead, or we got a tie game coming down to the wire or whatever. Like, I don't know if it's discipline or just like getting guys and pucks out of the front of our net or whatever, all that kind of stuff. Like, I feel like the Canadians did a good job like standing up for each other at the end of the game there, fighting back. Obviously the Canadians have always fought back, have always found ways to get themselves back in games even when they're down. But I feel like time and time again, when it comes to crunch time, we're in a 1-goal game situation or it's a tie game late or whatever, the Canadians can't find a way, to hold off the opposition and, take things to overtime or win, importantly, win 1-goal games. Because I feel like, especially in the playoffs, when that comes around, like, we're not gonna crush every team 5-2 all the way around. Like, we're not gonna go 16-0 just crushing teams. We need to find a way, to get that 1-goal lead. Doesn't matter who scores it, right? Like, obviously, this entire game, I feel like, obviously our entire top line, didn't really do a whole lot of anything in this whole game in terms of offense, but we found 5 goals from our depth. 2 goals from Alex Newhook, a guy that just came back from injury. We got a Deneau goal. We got our goals from our second line there. So, we got that figured out, but we got to find a way to get those goals and then hold the fort. Like, find a way to seal things off, play a solid defensive game. And I don't really feel like the way that our lineup is situated right now, we're able to do that. So moving into this trade deadline as it comes up, coming up to Friday at noon here. It'll be interesting to see what the Canadians can do, but my personal hope is that they find a way to acquire a guy, not necessarily a flashy trade by any means, but acquire, a player or two that can help us on that defensive effort, really just shut down things. And it'd be interesting to see if they go for a goalie as well. I feel like Dobesh didn't necessarily have an amazing performance here, and Montembeault has been shaky at best. But either way, if it's goaltending, if it's defense, if it's a forward, no matter what it is, I hope that the Canadiens find a way to acquire a guy who can help us when we're in a 1-goal game and it's coming down to the wire, or we're tied, going into the end of the game there. We need some players who can provide a little bit of grit and defensive effort for this team to seal off games and prevent stuff like what happened today, those 2 goals in 20 seconds, all that stuff. Like, we need some more help on defense is my personal opinion there. So yeah, long story short, 20 minutes into this video here, it's a tough one. I mean, like, the San Jose Sharks are a great team in my opinion. I feel like if you're gonna lose, you may as well lose to a team not in your conference, right? Like, not the worst thing ever, but now it just becomes like, let's not make this a habit. We're playing another good team, the Anaheim Ducks, coming up on Friday here, so we need to be locked in, ready to go. We cannot make losing a habit, because I swear, if we lose, more than 2 or 3 games in a row, we are falling out of the playoff spot. I guarantee we fall out of the playoff spot, and then we're right back where we were last season, trying to win every game to get ourselves back into it. So can't make losing a habit here. Need to find a way to get those 2 points. So that is all I have for you guys today. I will see you after the trade deadline and a big game, big 2 points, and an effort against the Anaheim Ducks.